Hello, I'm DavidHsieh from IHS Market. I'm in charge of the display market research and technology. It's my pleasure today to share with you about our latest outlook on the LCD and OLED display market outlook, as well as the display manufacturer strategies. So, in my presentation today, I have three parts. Firstly, we will talk about the LCD market outlook, and then the OLED market outlook. And the final part, we will especially take a look at the display manufacturer's strategy, especially from the supply chain perspective. So, as you can see on the slide number 3, this is what we're showing about the display market forecast. So the whole display industry can be forecasted in an area base. So we are expecting for these 20 years, the compound annual growth, especially on the area base, is about 4%. So we are expecting the display market demand can be growing from 172 million square meters in the year 2014 to 244 million square meters in the year 2022. And of course, among those different applications, we are seeing some application has been spatially very promising. For example, the LCD TV, because the consumers are buying the larger and larger size LCD TV due to the cost reduction and also the availability. And in the meantime, we are also seeing some other application has been very promising. So for example, like head-mount display, which is the, some people call it like VR devices. In the meantime, the automotive display and the public display, as you can see, more and more digital signage has been showing on the floors and on the public space. So the OLED TV is also a promising growth area because we are seeing the OLED TV has been counting a very important segment, especially in the very high-end TV side. However, the whole demand area growth has been based on the LCD TV. LCD TV, larger size, is the most important driving force for the whole display industry. As you can see from the slide number 4, this shows you about the average size growth of the LCD TV panel. So in year 2007, the average size of the LCD TV panel is about 32 inch. This year 2017, we are forecasting 42 inch size. So you can see that within 10 years from year 2007 to year 2017, and we have 10 inch growth. That means almost like 1 inch per year. What does that mean? For the average size 1 inch growth in the LCD TV area, that means that the digestion is about 1 Gen 8.5 or 1 Gen 8 fab capacity. So how about the future? If you take a look at the right side of the slide, you can see that we are projecting the average size of the LCD TV will be further growing to 44 inch. But there's a possibility it might be growing to a larger size. The reason why is that for the next couple of years, we are seeing new capacity and new generation like 10.5, which is optimum for 43 and 65 and even 75 inch will be available and starting to the mass production in the next couple of years. And that will be further push down the cost of the larger size and to make it available for the end users. So as you can see on the right side of the slide, we are seeing that the average size might be further growing to 45 or even like 48 inch. And that will be kind of good index for the capacity digestion. So the supply and demand is always a key point for the industry. When the oversupply happening, the panel price go down. When the shortage happen, the panel price go up. So if you take a look at the slide number 5, you can see the supply demand measurement. So we measure the supply or the capacity growth rate on the area base. And we also measure the demand growth rate on the area base. And then we compare the different growth rate to see how the supply and demand goes. So as you can see, last year is actually a balanced year because you can see the capacity growth rate and the demand growth rate are pretty much in a tight situation. However, last year we have some panel makers reduce or shut down their capacity of the older generation fab. In the meantime, the TV brand are very aggressive last year to do their business plan, especially when they foresee a shortage in year 2017. They have been pulling in the purchase on the TV panel last year. So that caused a very tight situation in the second half of last year, and that caused the panel price have a skyrocketing situation, especially on the LCD TV open sale. So what about this year? This year we are forecasting the capacity growth rate is actually smaller than the demand growth rate. The demand growth rate in area base is about 7% this year. And this is because that the people or the consumers are expecting the larger size LCD TV. And in the meantime, the capacity growth rate is actually only about 2%. This is because we do not have so many new capacity coming up in this year. Especially only in China side, we have a couple of the new Gen 8 or 8.5 fab coming up. But in the meantime, we have older generation fab has been shutting down this year, all from last year. So that makes the kind of minus for the capacity growth. So this year will be definitely a tight year, as you can see. But in the meantime, as we just explained, some of the tightness has been reflected in the second half of last year. So this year, again, the main atmosphere will be still tightness, but we are expecting some kind of the inventory adjustment, especially on the TV maker side or the TV OEM side. They should have some inventory adjustment in the second half. We'll go down to some inventory check later, but as you can see, for the next couple of years, as you can see on the right side of the slide, we are seeing some investment aggressiveness, especially in the China side. The display makers in China are so aggressive in expanding their new capacity in China, and that might be causing a kind of the oversupply situation, as you can see, which means that the capacity growth rate has been exceeding the demand growth rate in the area base, unless people are buying more larger size TV to digest those area-based capacity, or we might have a kind of the investment bubble or very serious oversupply situation. That's why we can see on the right side of the slide, since like year 2019 and year 2020, we might have some serious oversupply happening and reshuffling the whole display industry. I talk about the supply-demand measurement. So how about the inventory? As you can see from the slide number 6, we are seeing that we measure the inventory by two important indexes. One is the LCD TV panel shipment, and the other one is the LCD TV set shipment. What I mean by that is the set shipment is kind of the sell-in base, which means that the set shifted from the LCD TV brand to the channels. So we measure these two indexes to see the gap. This is called the LCD TV panel and set accumulated gap, as you can see from the slide number 6. So when we measure this gap, we can always see a very standard situation is like when the gap becomes very big, like accumulated like 6% or even 7%, the market will be somehow correcting itself because that will be fall into the inventory adjustment, and the TV OEM or ODM, when they reduce their orders in order to control their panel inventory, the market go down. In the meantime, the overcapacity happen and the panel price go down. So that's why in the bottom of the slide, you can see the supply, oversupply and shortage cycle has been matching with the inventory trend. However, last year and this year, the things are becoming a little bit different. As you can see, the inventory goes up to very high situation in last year, but the TV maker are continuously purchasing the panel because they are foreseeing two important things. The one is the shortage in year 2017, as I just mentioned earlier. And the second one is that they want to push the end users to really go to a larger size because the larger size represents a better profitability for the TV brand. So within this year, as you can see on the right side of the slide, the panel and set accumulated gap will be reaching a very high situation. It's something about 7%. And that's why we are foreseeing that the market might have some adjustment in the second half of this year. And of course, lots of the inventory has been actually old models. So what I mean by that is that when the TV makers, they started the preparation for the year 2017 sales promotion, actually they are starting to buy the new models display or panels when they are sitting on the old models inventory. So again, this might be another adjustment factor for the second half year 2017 adjustment. And however, we do not see there will be a big crash worry about the panel price, because as I mentioned earlier, this year if you purely just measure about the capacity and demand, you can see that this year the atmosphere is still a tight situation. So even when the TV makers they reduce their orders, there will not be a big crash like reduction. There will be some kind of slowly or general reduction, and that's why we are foreseeing the display LCD TV open sale price will be reduced gradually in the second half. And of course, for the next couple of years, we will see more serious oversupply due to the aggressive investment in China. We will take a look at the China investment later. As you can see from the slide number 6, this is the combination of the LCD and OLED display capacity. So as you can see from the slide, we are seeing that the Samsung display and LG display has been traditionally the leader of the industry in terms of the capacity. However, you can see aggressiveness of the BOE in China expanding their capacity. By year 2019, BOE will be the #1 capacity owner in the world. And you can see that it's also the same time when BOE kick off their Gen 10.5. So I would say the BOE is actually counting on the big Gen 10.5 capacity kickoff or ramp up from year 2019 to become the #1 in the world. But in the meantime, you can also see that panel makers like Samsung Display, they are not investing in LCD capacity anymore, but they are very aggressive in the flexible OLED or the rigid OLED capacity, as you can see right here. So Samsung Display will be kind of like keeping in the top 3 situation. This is not because of the LCD, this is because the OLED. We are also seeing the other display manufacturers in China expanding their capacity, and you can see for within these 10 years, those China display manufacturers has been accounting or growing their capacity or accounting a very important position in the worldwide capacity. So as I mentioned earlier about the China capacity, so not measured by the countries, but measured by the region, which means if you include the foreign panel makers' investment in China, China is becoming the worldwide largest LCD or OLED or the display capacity region in the world from this year. So as you can see from year 2017 Q1, China capacity has been #1 in the world. And however, in the longer term, as you can see from year 2018, we can see that the capacity from China will be accounting for 45% of the global capacity. And this is because of the loss of the government, especially the local government subsidy, pouring into the display industry. But it's also because of the loss of the new OLED or the flexible display investment. So 45% is actually very unprecedented in the history of the display industry, because long time ago when the Korean makers are dominating the industry, the largest regional share of Korea is actually less than 40%. So this will be the first time for a single region exceeding 45% of the global capacity. So we talk about the China aggressiveness for the next couple of slides, slide number 9 and slide number 10. This is purely for your reference about the different display manufacturers, about their investment plan on the China. So the slide number 9 is about the Gen 8 or Gen 8.5 or even Gen 10.5 investment. So you can see from the matrix, different manufacturers, different location. In the meantime, about their status, some are in mass production, some are under planning, and some are still in a question mark, as you can see. For the question mark is that we are not sure about the plan is concrete or not, but at least they are planning, especially on the Gen 10.5, as you can see from the slide. So for the Gen 8.5 and above fab, as you can see, by the year 2020, we are sure there will be 15 fab of the Gen 8.5 and above fab in China. From slide number 10, this is about the Gen 5.5, Gen 6 for the targeting for the small and medium size and targeting for the LTPS based OLED panel. So as you can see from the slide, again, it's the same matrix. The different panel manufacturers, different status. Some are under construction, some are in mass production, and some are under planning. And you also put some question mark on those doubtful fab because they have a plan, but it's still not concrete yet for the investment or building up. By year 2020, as you can see, we are foreseeing there will be 12 fab, Gen 5.5 and above fab in China, targeting on the small medium, especially on the mobile phone or the smartphone display application. So for the next couple of minutes, I would like to share with you about the TV side, because we all know that on the TV side, the visual differences is the most prominent and intuitive for the end users. So especially the consumers are recognizing the higher resolution, and in the meantime, the display manufacturers are moving to a larger size, like 55, even like 75 or 65. So in that sense, the 8K resolution will be becoming more prominent in the near future. So as you can see from the slide 11, we are seeing that the 8K for the larger size, the penetration of 8K will be growing. In the meantime, of course, for the 4K, the penetration will be growing. And this is a kind of the very positive for the display manufacturers because they can enhance the average price. But in the meantime, it's also positive for the semiconductor industry. As you can see right here, as long as it goes to the high resolution, there needs more semiconductor processing in the video mechanism. The size competition will be changed a lot and will be shifting to a larger size, and will be changing the different production strategy of the panel manufacturers. So as you can see on the slide 11, we are expecting the larger size LCD TV panel will be growing. They will be accounting more penetration or share in the total LCD TV arena. But in the meantime, on the right side of the slide, you can also see that the panel manufacturers, they are starting to change their production strategy. So for example, like when they have a Gen 8.5, they are targeting at these bigger size like 49 or even like 55 and reducing their 32 production. And in the near future, when they have something about Gen 8.6, we are starting to see kind of like new sizes will be emerging, like 45-inch or even 50-inch or 58-inch, because that's the economic cut in the so-called Gen 8.6 fab. How about the future? As you can see right here on the right side of the slide 12, you can see that as long as there will be larger size fab, like Gen 10.5 has been emerging, we are seeing that 65-inch availability will become more available. In the meantime, some of the display manufacturers will be targeting a larger size to produce the larger size LCD TV panels to compete in the market. And of course, in China, we can also see that some display manufacturers, because they are newcomers, so they want to take a different approach about the differentiation. So as you can see from the slide right here, we are seeing there are some different sizes on the glass substrate considering the different economic cut. So we have Gen 8, we have Gen 8.5, we have Gen 8.6, and even we have Gen 8.6 Plus. And those revision on the glass substrate sizes is actually targeting a different economic cut. For example, like 45-inch, 50-inch, and 58-inch. In some cases, the display manufacturer, they have to use the hybrid cut, which means MMG, which is called multi-model glass. This is to use the different photomask layout and different sizes on the same glass substrate in order to maximize the efficiency of the glass substrate. So on the slide 13, as you can see right here, we have different generation, and this is because the panel maker wants to utilize the differentiation. They want to maximize the glass substrate efficiency. And on the slide 14, there's a new idea. So we all know that the display manufacturers in China, like BOE and China Star, and even like Foxconn and Sharp, they are aggressively expanding their capacity to Gen 10.5. And the target is a 65-inch and a 75-inch. However, the investment amount is very big. For a Gen 10.5 fab, the investment amount is about $5.5 billion US. And thus the return on investment will be kind of that long term, and it's actually kind of difficult for some panel manufacturers to raise such a big amount of the funding to do the investment. Besides in China, because they have some government subsidy. So we are seeing some new idea coming up in Korea and China. So as you can see from the slide 14, we are seeing that some display manufacturers are starting to think about a half Gen 10.5. And actually you can see that the substrate size is actually similar to Gen 10.5 but cut into a half. So as long as the Gen 10.5 can produce 8 pieces of 65-inch, they are targeting 4 pieces of 65-inch. The Gen 10.5 can produce 6 cut on the 75, and now they are targeting 3 cut on the 75-inch. And you can see the glass size of the half 10.5 is actually similar to 8.5. So for the glass substrate manufacturer, it might not be a big problem for support the glass substrate. But in the meantime, the investment amount can be reduced, and they can still produce a 65 and 75 targeting in the larger size market when their investment is not so big and the return on investment is not such a big burden for them. So the Korean and Taiwanese display manufacturers, some of them are considered this kind of a half 10.5G investment. And of course, it's not decided yet because they have to think about the fundraising. They also think about the market opportunity and the competition between the half Gen 10.5 and the full 10.5G. But this is kind of new idea for your reference. In the next part, I would like to share with you about the OLED. OLED is definitely a very hot topic, and I think you just pay attention to our previous presentation from our team member about the OLED TV or OLED smartphone market outlook. So firstly, I would like to take a different angle on the OLED. So firstly, it's about the OLED TV. As we know that the OLED side, the Samsung Display and LG Group are taking very different approach. The LG Display or LG Group is targeting an OLED TV, as you can see on the upside of the slide, number 16. On the lower side of the slide, number 16, you can see the Samsung Display is actually take a different approach. They are moving phase by phase to the so-called QLED idea. So not OLED, but QLED from Samsung Group. So as you can see right here, currently they are using a pure quantum dot film in the LCD panel with the LED backlight, and the quantum dot film is purely to stimulate the color gamut angle of the LCD TV. However, as you can see, the QLED development will have 2 phases. The step 1 is actually to use the quantum dot to do the color filter. And in that case, because of the different penetration of the brightness or the light of the quantum dot, then you have to do the in-cell polarizer. So this is the step 1 QLED. For longer term, we are seeing that there might be a possibility to do the quantum dot array in color filter, which means that the quantum dot can be replacing the organic materials and every backlight in the LCD TV, and that becomes the ultimate or QLED. So Samsung is working on the QLED, the quantum dot film right now, but we believe their long-term goal is to do the QLED color filter, quantum dot color filter, and the quantum dot array. And of course, technology-wise, it still takes some struggle and hurdles, but we believe that's the ultimate goal of the so-called QLED. So how about the cost? So we do some measurement about the cost comparison. As long as in the future we are seeing the 65-inch will be mass-produced from the Gen 10.5. In the meantime, we are also seeing that the OLED might have a chance to move to the larger size fab like Gen 10.5 to be produced and to reduce the cost. So on the slide 17, this is the cost comparison, as you can see right here. So I will not touch upon the details, but the assumption is that the OLED TV panel has to do two things to do the further cost down. Firstly, it has to be changed from the current button emission to the time emission. Secondly, it has to move to a larger size substrate like Gen 10.5 or possibly with the printing or the inkjet printing method to be produced to reduce the cost. And however, in terms of the competitiveness, as you can see right here, on the same size and resolution panel, the OLED TV panel is about 2.3x cost of the LCD. In the longer term, if the OLED can be produced in Gen 10.5, we are seeing that the cost premium is only 1.4x. And that might be very attractive for the end users because you can see that OLED picture quality is still somehow very compelling. In the meantime, it can be very slim. And if the cost premium can be reduced, that's actually another attraction factor for the OLED TV. For the next, let's take a look at about the small medium size automobile. We all knowing that the Samsung display has been leading on the OLED smartphone display capacity and technology and readiness. Not to mention that this year we are starting to see the Apple iPhone will be adapting the OLED smartphone display. But how about China? We can see that the China capacity is rising because the China display manufacturers, they want to surpass, they want to go into the OLED, especially the flexible OLED capacity. They want to build more capacity to compete with the market. And also they are seeing that the China smartphone company are moving from LCD to OLED. So they have to match with the customers. However, as you can see on the slide 18, even though the China display manufacturer has been very aggressive in expanding their OLED capacity, Samsung Display is actually still leading, and continuously we see that Samsung Display is very committed to the further capacity expansion on the OLED. So you can still see a very big gap between Samsung Display capacity or even LG Display capacity versus the China OLED capacity. And this might not be a very good news for the China OLED makers because they might be seeing a very big competition pressure from the Korean panel makers. But in the meantime, we are also seeing that because of the shortage on the OLED smartphone display panels, we see the China OLED newcomers or the emerging players, they are starting to take some position on the design. So on the slide 19, you can see that this one gives you the idea about the China smartphone brand adoption rate on the OLED panel in their smartphone. Last year, year 2016, is about 14% to 50% of the China smartphone brand is equipped with the OLED. This year, they are expecting to be rising to something about 18%. So when they are facing the shortage from Samsung Display, even though Samsung Display is increasing their OLED shipment to China, they have to find the second source or they have to find an alternative supplier on the OLED. And that's the chance for the China rising OLED suppliers. So as you can see from the slide right here, we are seeing that the Chinese companies like Ever Display, Tianma, Visionox, GVO, or even BOE, they are taking more and more design in those China smartphone brand. So within this year, we are forecasting the Samsung Display will be shipping about 500 million OLED panels for smartphone, and this is including rigid and flexible. And within this 500 million, we are seeing that might be 70 million something reserved for the Apple coming iPhone 8. But in the meantime, they are increasing their supply to China, especially on the rigid OLED side. So the Samsung Display's OLED shipment to China will be increasing from 95 million to about 120 million, as you can see from the slide 19 right here. Moving on to the next one, we are looking forward to have a bigger AMOLED shipment forecast. So by the year 2020, we are forecasting the total AMOLED or the active matrix OLED shipment will be achieving 800 million. By that time, we were starting to see the smartphone OLED will be taking an important part. And in terms of the revenue, actually the smartphone OLED will be surpassing the smartphone LCD. In the meantime, the flexible form factor or the curved or full screen form factor will be a very important implemental form factor or feature for the smartphone brand. And even though some companies are working on the so-called flexible LCD rather than OLED, we are seeing that it might be still taking some technology hurdle to conquer to achieve that. So still, the flexible option will be most likely OLED and will be taking the dominance for a while. And on the other hand, we are also forecasting, starting to see some automotive makers, they are starting to use the OLED considering the different form factor and favorable form factor for the car. They are using the OLED in the automotive display. So again, the OLED is very promising, but in the meantime, we are also have to take a look at about the cost reduction and also the capacity expansion plan, especially from China. There are some people talking about the micro LED. So micro LED is kind of the new rising display technology. And of course, there are many speculation about the Apple will be changing their iWatch or the smartwatch display from the current OLED to the micro LED in the near future. So we make some comparison about the rising micro LED display feature right here, as you can see on the slide 21. So it's a compare about the micro LED with the LCD and OLED. The micro LED has some good advantage about the brightness, power consumption, and form factor, but also it has some shortfall about the process, the yield rate, and the cost might be a question mark. So we are expecting the micro LED, the prominent or the promising application might be three. Firstly, it's about smartwatch due to the high brightness requirement and also the sunlight readable feature of the LED. And also the public information display, as you can see, the larger size screen, a very larger size screen public display might be suitable for the micro LED. And also the automotive display, as you can see right here. So it's also because of the high brightness and also the harsh environment regulation for the automotive might be favorable for the LED and also the free form factor. So these three applications, smartwatch, public display, and automotive, might be the promising outlook for the micro LED. And we do not see the majority of the display application like TV, PC, might be, or even smartphone, might be a very good application for the micro LED because of the dominance of the LCD and OLED. For the final part of my presentation, and I would like to share with you about the maker's strategy. So firstly, we try to pull out the whole industry world map and about to depict their relationship. So on the slide 23, as you can see right here, this is to show you about the different relationship between the display manufacturers in Korea and Japan, the set or the brand and OEM makers, and also the display manufacturers in Taiwan and China, and also the set OEM in China. So the red line shows about the investment relationship. So for example, we are seeing the brands like TCL or the TV makers like TCL, they have been investing a TV panel fab like China Star in China. And we are also seeing that the companies like BOE, they have been starting from the display manufacturers in China and now expanding to different business like TV OEM and ODM. And we are also seeing some new relationship, as you can see right here. For example, like LG Display will be starting to ship the LCD TV panel to Samsung TV from this year. And this is also because of that the Samsung TV group cannot get enough panel from their suppliers, especially when Sharp and Foxconn is so aggressive in expanding their own brand TV shipment this year. And so they kind of like terminate the TV panel shipment to the outside or external customers. So that changed the whole industry supply chain relationship, and you can see the whole roadmap is showing right here. Slide 24, I would like to share with you the Korean makers strategy. So obviously you can see that the Korean display manufacturers, when they are facing the China aggressive investment in the LCD, they are moving more toward to their dominant area, which is OLED. So on the left-hand side of the slide, you can see this is old strategy of the Korean manufacturers. The flexible OLED is on a very high-end product, and then you have rigid OLED, then you have a higher-end LCD technology, the oxide or LTPS, then you have the kind of the blue sea or the red sea typical TFT LCD business now. From now, the Korean makers are starting to reshape their strategy, which is shown in the right side of the slide 24. So as you can see, they are kind of like expanding their OLED business and capacity. So moving from OLED from the very high end to the middle end market. In the meantime, the higher end technology of the LCD like oxide or LTPS or even the higher brightness or IPS panel, they're kind of like moving into the commodity of the LCD. So you can see the Korean strategy is actually to have OLED in all applications for the next 5 years. In the meantime, they want to push or enlarge the OLED scale, no matter if it's for mobile or it's for TV. And that will be changed the industry permanently, as you can see. Because when the Koreans are dominating the OLED, it's actually giving more pressure to the Taiwanese panel manufacturers, and it's also giving some pressure to the Japanese panel manufacturers. Because you can see the Taiwanese and Japanese, they're kind of the squeeze in the middle. In the OLED technology, they cannot compete with Korean. In the LCD technology or capacity, China is rising behind them and actually already surpassing it. So you can see the Taiwanese and Japanese are putting in a very awkward situation, and that might means that they have to reshape their strategy in the longer term. So we see JDI has been trying to do the flexible LCD to find a new way out, and we also see the Sharp. After the Foxconn acquired Sharp, Sharp has been moving to the brand business, and they want to put more focus on the brand market or the end market. And we are also seeing the AEO in Innolux try to find a different way out. They are putting more focus on the high-end LCD technology. They are also putting more focus on the different or the niche application, like the curved TV, automotive, industrial, and public display. There's a new term coming in the TV display supply chain, which is called FIT, standing for the full integrated TV. What I mean by that is actually it means that the TV integration has been happening from the display to the OEM and ODM and also to the brand. So you can see the Foxconn or Sharp is a very standard case. When Foxconn acquired Sharp, that's the idea for the FIT. Because of the vertical integration, they can put more focusing on the cost reduction, and it might be more efficient for the whole supply chain integration. So as you can see on the slide 25 right here, you can see that this is different FIT idea of the different companies. So again, the idea is to have more control over the panel source. But in the meantime, we can also see that some TV makers like Samsung, VD, or the LG Electronics, they might be facing some dilemma in the longer term because the captive panel manufacturers like Samsung Display or LG Display are not really expanding the capacity of LCD. So they might have to have some more strategic alliance relationship with the BOE or China Star to secure their TV panel needs for the near future. But you can also see that the TCL and China Star, this is a kind of a perfect case of the vertical integration or the FIT. And we are also seeing that BOE is using the huge capacity of the LCD TV, trying to do more OEM and ODM and possibly to get some more alliances with the brand. So that's why you can see that from the slide 26. Within this couple of years, we are seeing the supply chain or the supply relationship between the panel manufacturers and the TV brand will be reshaping. So this one gives you the idea about the panel allocation and plan from year 2016 to year 2017 between key TV brand and display manufacturers. I will not touch upon the details as you can study on your own, but one key factor for the change for this year is because that Sharp used to ship many panels to the other TV brand like Samsung or even Hisense, but from this year the Foxconn asked Sharp to put more focusing on the TV brand, so they kind of cap the panel they need without shipping to the outside customers. So in that case, that might be really changing. So for example, the Samsung VD or the Samsung TV have been starting to purchase their TV panel from LG Display from this year. And also we are seeing that might be encouraging the China TV brand to purchase more panels from the local China TV panel manufacturers. So again, this is kind of power shift, especially within these 2 years when Sharp is rising on their brand, when Samsung VD is changing their allocation strategy. We can see that will be put a more permanent, long-term influence on this kind of supply chain relationship. So on my last slide, I would like to share with you. We are seeing these two groups will be changing the display industry and the supply chain relationship within these 2 years. The one group is on the left side, you can see on the slide 27, the China makers. So there are many questions surrounding those China makers. Are they financially okay, continuously to get a subsidy from the government? Can they handle the new Gen 10.5 ramp up well? Can they penetrate the OLED flexible display market well, or they will be lagging behind continuously? Can they secure their number one position in capacity? Or can they really do the different vertical integration business model? And on the right side is the Foxconn plus Innolux plus Sharp. And as everybody knows that the Sharp is very aggressive in the TV brand shipment this year. So their new target is about 14 million when they have only shipped 5 million last year. So if Sharp can make it, that means that the Foxconn really turn over Sharp. But in the meantime, it also means that the supply chain relationship between the display and the panel and the set has to change. So you can see that there are also many questions surrounding this group, Foxconn, Innolux, and Sharp group. Will Innolux be influenced by Foxconn, or they will be continuously to play an independent role in the panel manufacturers? Or will the Sharp achieve their aggressive goal this year on the TV set shipment? Or there will be some adjustment in the second half because they cannot achieve their target? In the meantime, what will be the plan for Foxconn? Because Foxconn is for OLED. Because Foxconn is a very big OEM and ODM for iPhone and iPad. So when the iPhone is moving to OLED, you can see that they might be changing the plan of their LCD plan. They might be more aggressive in moving to the OLED. So we can see the different, and also on the other hand, we are also seeing the Foxconn has been acquiring some stock share of the US-based public display or interactive whiteboard company smart application. So that might be changing the direction of the Foxconn, or they might be also seeing the public display or interactive whiteboard will be a key driving for their capacity. So this question has been surrounding for the whole Foxconn, Innolux, and Sharp group. We believe that these two groups will be influencing the display industry from now on, and I would like to encourage you to keep staying with us, IHS Market, to see the latest development on these two groups and about how they influence the whole industry. This ends my presentation, and thank you very much for the attention today. Thank you.